93-91 in overtime. Sometimes I get caught up in the fact that, we're so close to this. We enjoy Alabama-Auburn matchups, but a lot of people around the country, you kept seeing tweets and everything coast to coast. People really enjoyed that basketball game on the way it was played and how energetic the arena was at Auburn. Apparently, it was great television. Even at the famed North Carolina-Duke game, while the players are warming up and the fans are sitting there waiting for the game, they're showing the ending.
Oh, we've arrived.
On the scoreboard at Tobacco Road.
We've arrived.
In the Dean Dome, they've got the ending of Auburn, Alabama playing on the big screen for Duke and North Carolina.
We've
Blasphemous.
Arrived. Now they do this to show that there is a chance. Well, no, we'd flip it. If this was in Cameron Indoor, you would want to show it if Auburn was going to lose, because Duke still has a chance at the number 1 overall seed. I know a lot of people don't believe that.
No, they got a chance.
No, they got a chance.
But, if Duke was to win the ACC tournament, I know you say the committee doesn't pay attention to it.
I don't think they do. I think they've got the 1 seed set before tournaments are final.
I disagree. If Duke wins the ACC and Auburn doesn't win the SEC, I think Duke is your number 1 overall.
I don't think the committee pays attention to the tournaments. When it comes to 1 seed, now, if it's a bubble team, maybe. But 1 seeds, I think those babies are set Friday.
I disagree. It can't be like that.
I think it is.
So you
it certainly can be.
How could you figure out between Tennessee, Alabama, and Florida on that final one?
I think based on the regular season. Now,
there's no way.
Before we get to all the bubble talk,
every year.
We can talk days of the bubble.
But there's no way, right?
There's stuff left to get to. But let's get to the game first. Alabama and Auburn, what we saw on Saturday, but
this does have a correlation with that.
Yeah, the bubble will be debated, and also the 1 seed will be debated. But for Alabama, they get the win 93-91. Before you hear the postgame, the coaches afterwards had interesting takes in this game. But just the game itself, you watched it 93-91, the back-and-forth contest, Alabama getting the win. Going into the game, I didn't think Alabama really had a shot to pull out for a victory.
I kept getting texts Friday night, Saturday morning. I absolutely, from just various people, even Auburn fans, love Alabama today plus points.
Really?
I was on Auburn, all over Auburn minus the 8.5. Talked to some people that got it at 9. It went down to 7.5. But yeah, a lot of people were all about Alabama plus points.
Wow.
And look, they were dead on because, Auburn would get up 5 here and there, but they never were covering the game. And Alabama kind of controlled that number the entire time. I was surprised as well. I thought Auburn would win the game, not going away. I thought it'd be a really good game. Auburn would end up stretching it out to 10 to 12 points. Didn't play out like that, but I watched it at walk-ons, got there early to make sure we had a seat, watched the entire game, and boy, that was an atmosphere in itself.
I was going to ask you, was it 50-50, pretty good split there?
Probably more Alabama, probably 70-30, kind of, as I tell Dunaway, the population breakdown in our state. But that's about what it was.
Yeah. And the reaction at the end was like NCAA tournament-like, or was it a little more muted?
It was. I bet it was louder in walk-ons than it was at Neville. Is that fair? It seemed like watching it, there was complete silence after it.
Well,
you were in Neville. I mean, what was the
instant reaction? It did go quiet, but then you had some boos with the celebration and some towel throwing at the Alabama players. It wasn't trash, by the way. They were the celebration of the SEC championship towels.
I'd rather throw trash
on television. It looked like they were
bottles.
Throwing,
yeah. I thought bottles initially.
I don't know if any bottles were going, but I did see the white towels.
I would give up trash before I would give up my regular season SEC championship.
I had to light up early to get that thing.
Yeah.
It was an unbelievable atmosphere. It did go quiet. Just getting it to overtime was amazing. Let's hear from the coaches. Let's go Bruce Pearl first. Bruce had some interesting things to say afterwards. Cut number 8, though, because there was a plan for an SEC official to hand Auburn the SEC regular season championship trophy. They get the trophy. There was a plan to cut down the nets afterwards. They ended up not doing that. There was no trophy presentation or anything. Bruce talked about that after the loss in overtime.
We didn't cut nets down tonight. And we didn't have a celebration because, you know what? We lost the contest. We won the championship last Saturday. We celebrated some last Saturday in Kentucky, as a team and as a family. We're in postseason now. We're shifting gears to postseason. And postseason is all about step up. It's just all about step up. and you get seeded a little bit better, so you have a better chance to advance through the tournament, which you earned and we worked for. But it's time. It's what more? Janai Broom showed you step up tonight. All right. Grant Nelson showed you step up tonight. They get a couple more guys to step up like Grant did or Cliff did today. We get a couple more guys to step up. Obviously, our front line has to defend better. Our front line has to rebound better. And Chaney and Janai and Dylan have got to be able to defend better against the teams that we've gotten beaten by.
So what happened was Alabama out-rebounded Auburn, but they didn't really shoot a lot of three-pointers. They didn't make a lot of three-pointers for sure. Mark Sears had 5 in regulation, 9 after the game winner. Alabama beat them at the rim.
Well, I love the fact that he not only brings up Grant Nelson, which is really going to jump out, his first 20-plus point game in almost 2 months, but Clifford Amorie, I mean, for what he was able to do, 7 of 7 from the field, it seemed like he was throwing down a one-handed dunk every other possession, and just how efficient he was, and there was really no answer for him.
See if you can find a thread among these 3 teams. I'm just going to read you 3 teams. See if anything jumps out at you about these 3 teams, okay?
Okay.
You will pay close attention to me?
I'm on it here. Let's go.
Alabama is number 1 in the SEC in rebounds.
Are they really? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Total rebounds and rebounds per game. I mean, obviously, if you're going to be total, it's going to be rebounds per game. They've all played 31 games.
Okay.
Florida is number 2 in the conference.
All right.
In rebounding. Texas A&M is number 3 in the conference in rebounding. Can you find a common thread among those 3 teams?
Yeah, they all beat Auburn.
Correct. Yeah. Auburn is 1-3 versus those 3 teams.
And I would assume, and I haven't looked at this, Duke leads the ACC in rebounding.
Potentially.
I think Duke leads.
I think they lead in everything good.
Probably.
They lead the ACC in popcorn sales. They lead the ACC in everything.
But I'm just saying, if you're
right.
if you're looking for their 4 losses, it probably is teams that crush them on the boards.
Yeah, and that's a concerning thing for Auburn moving forward. Like when you get to the postseason, you start to find these matchups you don't normally get. I'm playing teams I don't normally play. What is a bad matchup for Auburn? Well, it appears a bad matchup for Auburn's team that can rebound, because Alabama, Florida, and Texas A&M are their 3 conference losses. That's your top 3 rebounding teams. And it was a rebounding disparity in all 3 of those games. You go back and look at it, and Bruce Pearl probably in all 3 of them said something similar to what he just said right there about rebounding.
Can I say this, and you tell me if it's true?
Duke does lead the ACC in rebounding.
I'm the least stunning thing you'll say all day.
Yeah.
Is it?
I didn't expect Alabama to be more physical than Auburn was in that game, but they were.
I mean, look, you knew going into the game Alabama was still potentially playing for a 1, which, it's still hovering out there, but it seemed like they had a chip on their shoulder the entire game.
Yeah. The atmosphere was intense. I mean, Aiden Holloway makes his return, and the moment he runs out for warm-ups, the student section, of course, camps out there in there. The moment the doors open, they're packed. And so Alabama's not even in the arena yet. The Auburn students beat Alabama into the arena. He goes running out, huge boo, boo. And then every time he makes a shot in warm-up, boo. Every time he misses, cheers. During entire warm-ups.
All for Aiden Holloway. That's all they focus on.
They're just watching Holloway with the ball every time. And then he's booed throughout the game. Every time he checks in, every time he touches the ball, he's booed throughout. And you just kept seeing during timeouts and huddles, LeBaron Philon, who's on the show with us today at 9:45, and others, Jaron Stevenson, they always had their arms around Aiden Holloway because he was catching crap the entire day for being back in there. Until Grant Nelson hit the Crimson Crane after the dunk. And then at that point, Holloway got booed, but the loudest boos every time he touched the basketball the rest of the day was Grant Nelson.
Well, and it seems like it lit a fire. I mean, that's the Grant Nelson. You go back to the win over North Carolina and the NCAA tournament last year. If that Grant Nelson could show up, well, you pair that with what Clifford was able to do on Saturday.
Yeah,
I mean, that front line.
You start getting that Grant Nelson with regularity in the postseason.
Yeah, you're saying start getting that because where has he been?
Yeah, he's disappeared.
Yeah, but
offensively.
You start getting that Grant Nelson because I know you've talked about it a lot. You really like that 3-guard lineup Alabama goes with. Grant Nelson being as active as he is only magnifies how good that 3-guard lineup is, because now you got some really difficult decisions to make with Alabama defensively. if Grant Nelson's playing the way he's playing.
Yeah, and I think he would rather put it on the deck and take it to the rim.
I think he had,
Which,
yeah.
and I think Nate Oats loves that.
Yeah, because that opens up the kick out three, right?
Yep.
I mean, either Nelson's getting fouled, Nelson's getting a bucket, or you got to kick out three.
But he's been reluctant to do that lately and take it to the rim. He's been passing. He's been reluctant to take a 3-point shot. I can't think of the last time he really comfortably went into double digits. He's had a lot of single-point games, it seems like.
I think the last time he had a game like this was the early Kentucky win.
Yeah.
I think, but it's been 2 months since he had 20-plus.
But this was the Alabama you got against North Carolina last year. Nelson had that huge game, and they were physical. Hey, if you will, Tyler, give me cut number 1. This is Nate Oats afterwards. Nate had said, it was a weird comment before the game, that really nothing's on the line in this game. He was almost unplugging the pressure point for his team going down there. And then afterwards, he talked about what this game meant for Alabama in the win.
Yeah, I thought it was big. I mean, I met with them guys earlier in the week after we lost to Florida. I asked them how their bodies were, kind of explained we've got the bye to Friday wrapped up. The only thing still in the books is a 3 or 4. You guys want to play everybody against Auburn? It was a resounding, yeah. We don't like those guys. We owe them one. We're playing. We're getting a win. So, which is what I wanted to hear, but I wanted them to make that decision. They did. They brought it. I think it was huge. It's definitely not a game Auburn was okay with losing. They put everybody out there and played them as many minutes as they could to get the win. So for our seniors to come in here on the last game of the regular season and win at Auburn, I think gives them some confidence. It means a lot for those guys. It kind of makes up for a few of these losses we've had in this tough 7-game stretch, and now we just got to get everybody rested, healthy, bodies fresh, ready to go in Nashville.
Senior day for Auburn. Alabama lost theirs to Florida, and in the post-game and their reaction, like you were saying, like Alabama had a chip on their shoulder. It was almost like the Alabama seniors wanted to use this as their senior day. This be their moment.
Breaking news real quick. Auburn is not going to be able to beat like teams if their second leading scorer continues to do what he does. Well, okay, so watching initially when he pulled the Vlade Divac, you tell me some of the best flops. Look like a soccer player. When he acts like he was completely shot, and they go back, waste our time doing the review, and there was nothing malicious at all. And then, a minute and a half later, puts an elbow square in the back of the head.
Yep. Flagrant 2. It's hard to get a flagrant 2.
Yeah,
It is. In this day and age of basketball,
But
it's hard.
very
Yeah.
easy ejection right there, right?
100%.
Yeah,
No, I don't think anybody, even the most ardent Auburn fan, watched that replay and was like, yeah, I don't see anything there. I mean, whether it's a 1 or a 2, I guess, I didn't think it was that big of a coin flip on a 1 or a 2. That's an easy 2 to me. But you're arguing between a 1 and a 2. It's clearly a flagrant foul. Nobody, even as biased as you are, can argue that it's not a flagrant foul.
Yeah, and I think you go back to the opening round loss against Yale. I think there was such a shock factor that it wasn't as big of a talking point as it should have been. But I'm sure the Pearls had a nice sit down with Chad Baker. He realizes how important he is to this team. You got to be able to keep that in check. Absolutely have to be.
You do, and I will say this as a guy who I know gets, I'm Alabama, Auburn fans are going to hate me saying this, but he does this almost every game where Chad Baker-Mazara is trying to bait the person who's on him into doing something stupid to him, to where he would draw a foul or a flagrant foul.
But it blows up on him.
Yeah, but if he would just play the game, he is such a good defender, such a good scorer, such an important part of the team. If he would stop all the BS stuff that he tries to do as well and just play the game, I think the team would benefit more from him just being out there for 40 minutes, being Chad Baker-Mazara, instead of trying to bait the other team into doing something stupid.
Yeah, it's almost like, okay, they're going to be playing a 16. Whoever that 16 is, I got that one dude on the bench that plays like 3 or 4 minutes, and he can really mix it up. I'm bringing that guy in and getting in the ear of Chad Baker.
Well, if I'm a
and
six-
just try
yeah.
to as much chaos as possible because we know we can't play this team within 30
That's
or 40
right.
points.
So you're saying if you're a 16 in the tournament, I send my goon in,
Yeah, why not?
my hockey goon in, and see if I can get the guy ejected early. And
you know, if it doesn't
increases
work
my
for the
chances.
16, if I'm the 8 or 9, I do the same
Yep.
thing.
Give me cut 7. Go ahead, Brown.
Well, I was just going to say, did you guys think, though, it's a terrible ejection on his part. It's a selfish move on his part, and it's becoming all too common on his part. Did you think it impacted the play of the game, though? Like, I kind of thought Auburn didn't really seem like they played worse without him on the court. And to me, that's the most alarming thing. It's almost like his teammates are expecting this or accustomed to this. It's like Auburn didn't really get shook by it, I don't think.
Yeah, but you don't know what his impact was going to be because Dunaway talks about, and this is legitimate, how good of an on-ball defender he is.
That's absolutely right. But I'm saying, did you visibly see a difference in the Auburn team without him out there?
No, not attitude, not their toughness, not
That's
the
my
way they
point,
played,
yeah.
but he is one of their better defenders.
Cannot argue that, yeah.
And so just on the last play, 14 seconds left,
Right.
him on the floor instead of somebody else.
There's no doubt. They got confused defensively. I mean,
Yeah.
Alabama ran a set that confused Auburn for just a split second,
Yeah.
and it allowed Sears. I don't know if Jimmy Dykes told you, Sears likes to get to his left hand.
Yeah, he'll get to his left hand,
Yeah, and
even if you try to take it away.
And it allowed Sears to get to his left hand, and the game is over at that point. You're
There's
right.
still a degree of difficulty on that shot.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, a shot that they don't take a lot of, right?
No, I mean, falling away, what was it, a 12-footer?
Yeah. It's a
See, everybody's agreeing with me in the chat room from watching. You were at the game, so it could
Yeah.
feel different. Watching on TV, everybody's like, I feel like Auburn, and these are Alabama and Auburn fans in the chat room. Like, I kind of thought Auburn played better without him out there. Bama was up 8 at the time and got very little. Again, just like in Tuscaloosa, got very little out of the incident.
missed the two
Missed
free
the two
throws.
free throw. I mean, my God, Youngblood had to be seeing
Yeah.
double at that point.
Yeah.
Almost like after when he took the free throws, you're like, okay, yeah. But then when you saw the foul, you're like, damn.
Yeah.
For him to be able to go up there
Yeah.
and to see straight for a second.
Already with a bandage on his eye from swipe at the ball that continued into the face of.
Those
a
are
little bit
probably,
earlier.
if you're going Auburn elbows, just the way Chad Baker is built, I mean, those things are like razors.
Yeah, it's like when your kid accidentally hits you in the side with their elbow, and it's like a big old pointy elbow.
One of those you have to check to see if you got blood. You have to look
Yeah.
at your hand in the back. But I want you to listen to Bruce afterwards.
Right.
I was surprised a little bit by his comments because he talked about retaliation, which happened at Yale in the Yale game last year, and BP goes almost not defending Chad Baker-Mazara, but almost explaining Chad Baker-Mazara. Here's Bruce.
Bruce, what's your message to Chad going into the postseason? Are you worried about him?
Well, what I'd like is for the first fouls to be called, and but I have not seen the play, so I just can't comment on whatever happened there. So obviously, flagrant 2 is something that this is his second time having it, and obviously, we're not as good a team without him, and so he takes a lot of contact. He gets hit a lot, and he can't. If it was some sort of a retaliation, he just can't retaliate. But I don't. I'll know more when I look at the play.
I'd like to see the first fouls called. Takes a lot of contact. Gets hit a lot. Can't retaliate.
Do we have any, because I was looking for Bruce sound outside of that, where he said he hasn't seen the play. Do we have Bruce comments after he has seen the play?
I don't think so.
I haven't come across.
You will probably get that at some point this week when he meets the media prior to the SEC champion or SEC tournament, whenever that is.
I was surprised a little bit by those comments because he makes it sound like that there was almost a path from Chris Youngblood to have baited him into the hit.
But even if there was, there's a reason teams are doing that to Chad Baker-Mazara. They know it works. And listen, he's a marked man now. And I'm not saying he didn't deserve to be ejected. He deserved to be ejected. But don't think that every officiating crew moving forward doesn't know this guy's reputation. And it ain't going to take much for him to pick up another flagrant 1 or flagrant 2 or technical because he's a marked man. I mean, any officiating crew is going to go in knowing that. Now, maybe not as much in the regular season because these guys are in Wichita one night and Austin the next night and Tuscaloosa the next night. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, what college officials are allowed to do in their travel schedule. But now they go to Nashville and they stay for a few days and they watch some film. Or now they go to an NCAA tournament site and they stay for a few days and they're able to watch a little film. And they'll talk to each other, and they'll do their scouting reports. This is an issue for Auburn moving forward. And I think every team, like Lance was saying, if I'm a 16, if I'm an 8, if I'm a 9, if I'm a 4, I'm going to have somebody trying to get under the guy's skin and see what I can get him to do. Because it's obvious you can get him to do something now. I mean, it's been time and time again with this guy.
Yeah, Youngblood and him went at it all day long.
Yep.
All day long. They found themselves a lot, including when Chad Baker, I think that was the one you were talking about where you thought he flopped to the ground. And then as he's
Looked like a complete poon.
running back down the court, Chris Youngblood runs over, steps over
him. Yep.
And Chad raises his arm up to catch his foot or to protect his face, either way you want to look at that. And so that even brought, you had to go review that. Did he step on him intentionally? Did they do that? So there was a little history there. Here's Grant Nelson after the 93-91 win for Alabama. Nelson, his best game in a long time in the Crimson and White.
This is a big win for us. It's a big win for all of Alabama fans. So, I mean, it's good to just have that going into both tournaments. And, I mean, we still got a lot to learn from this. I mean, I don't think we finished it perfect, but, I mean, we came out with the win. But, I mean, really, we do got a lot to learn, and we got a lot to improve before we start these two tournaments.
Now, I still say his Final Four loss semifinal dunk over the big man at UConn is his best dunk. But that was a massive dunk.
Was that Donovan Clingan?
I think so. Yeah.
But he put it down, and it was on that stage. That was probably Grant Nelson's best dunk at Alabama. But that was a massive dunk on Saturday. And then he goes in to the crane, the Crimson Crane, I guess it's being called.
Did you try in front of the mirror Saturday night?
No, but I mean, for those that are around the country, I had to explain this to Dusty and Danny. There's no Alabama tradition with this crane. It's John Mechie started it in his final year, and it was actually Auburn and Bruce that brought it to basketball. Remember, John Mechie did it in front of the student section after the overtime win, and then Auburn beat Alabama, I think, at Neville. Or
Is
maybe
that the one where he did it and he had the broom and he was waving the broom around because they swept Alabama?
I don't know if he did it first in Tuscaloosa, but Bruce and Auburn
I remember.
stuck the crane, and that it's been a part of the basketball ever since. In basketball, I think Auburn's done the crane more than Alabama has, to be honest with you.
I don't know.
But Grant stuck it right there. Should it have been a technical or not? LTU first
Probably.
for taunting.
Yeah. Emotions are going to be riding high in this game to begin with. Or at least you've got to pull him aside. But more than likely, go on and call the T there to try to get it under control.
Was it Amore earlier this year that blocked somebody and then stood over him and said something, and that drew a technical
A very
foul?
quick one, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what game that was in. Brown should have been a technical.
I mean, the one thing I would say real quick, Brown, is it wasn't like Nelson. He was looking past. It wasn't like he was looking into the face of any one Auburn
And there was contact between he and Broom, but it seemed pretty incidental. Like, I mean, Nelson's just turning around, Broom's just kind of standing there. It was like Broom was.
Yeah, Cardwell was on the side, right?
Yeah, it was a far cry from what you saw in Lansing over the weekend with Michigan and Michigan State. I mean, there was nothing like intentional there. By the definition of taunting, it's taunting. In a big game like that, am I okay with letting them go just a little bit?
Yeah.
Until there seems to be an issue,
Well, let me ask you this, guys.
Okay.
Since I'm being hated, I'm sure in the chat room right now. Anyway,
It's moving too fast. I can't see the hate on you.
so if I get a great defensive stop, okay, we've got you to turn the ball over. I've played great defense on you, and I do this. Is that taunting?
Are you doing it at me or are you doing it at the crowd?
I'm just doing it, not at
Well, I
anyone.
mean, that's the
I'm just
definition
doing
of taunting. Are you doing it at me or at the crowd?
Yeah. Well, was he doing it at Broom or an
I
Auburn player?
don't know. He had turned around and Broom was standing there.
Yeah, I
so
mean, they're
it's-
right there,
yeah.
but he was like looking off. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
But put it this way, if that is moving forward, if Chad Baker-Mazara does something like that, he's going to get teed up.
Yeah.
No, you're probably right about that.
In the past, you couldn't do anything in college football.
Yeah, which I don't want that world.
And in basketball, you've been able to throw the 3 goggles up and stuff. There's always been things, you shoot arrows. I mean, there are so many things you can do in basketball. And standing over somebody and talking, that's taunting. Turning around, sticking the crane. I was surprised he did not get a technical foul, to be honest with you, in that setting.
I think some of that is going to depend on what is the temperature of the game. Like if we've had issues. So
Well, it was hot, and it got hotter right then.
yeah, it was hot, but had you had any real issues where the refs had to step in? I
can't remember when when the first Chad Baker, Chris Youngblood bout started.
Yeah.
What round one? When round one between that fight was?
Yeah, I'm fine with the no call.
I mean,
by definition,
calling God is. I mean, that's almost the three goggle, right?
Right.
Calling God. That's not really at anybody's face or anything.
Yeah.
The one that would come close to taunting, I've thought all year long, has been great defensive play. And now the shot, you've got them to a shot clock, or they've turned it over and you've played your ass off on defense, and then you do that and you throw two thumbs down. That's been borderline taunting all year long to me. And you do that, and that's part of Auburn's swagger. I don't want to see that whistled either. The crane thing seemed to be back a little bit there. What about waving at the student section if you're on the road?
I got no problem.
Yeah.
With that.
I don't either.
I mean, if you
get a
don't
lot
like
of
it,
that,
beat them.
too.
Yeah, I mean, they're yelling at you.
Yeah, if you don't like it, beat them.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, now if you're waving if you're walking down at the bench, waving at the bench, you probably got a different story there.
I don't know about you guys. That was the best game that I have seen this year.
I would
too.
agree with you.
Yeah.
And
I don't even know what's second.
And again, maybe it's just because of what we do and where we are. But when you got two top 7 teams playing like that for 40 minutes, and then we get extra basketball. And I thought when Broom hit the three that we haven't talked about, I don't like Broom taking the shot.
Oh.
Like, I never like him taking threes.
But I don't know who else you wanted to take that shot.
But boy, that was a massive shot. And I thought there was no way we weren't going to double overtime.
That guy made any big bucket he needed to make. He was there. That
He
guy
was
played
great.
his butt off.
But I'm just saying, normally I don't like him trying to stretch the defense because it ends up being a missed shot.
I would just say, though, in regulation, I was a little surprised the shot he got off at the end of regulation.
Yeah.
You get him the ball out on the wing one-on-one with Nelson, and the best you get out of it is a 15-foot fadeaway to win the game was a little surprising to me. I mean, I thought he would I didn't know if he could back Nelson down from the three-point line. That's a long way to back a guy down. I thought maybe you would drive at him, though, and see if you could get a foul or get a little better shot than a 15-foot fadeaway.
And that's my final thought on this game was Bruce Pearl not happy that, I don't know the numbers, but how many 2-point shots or buckets that Broom got in the paint, and I don't have it in front of me.
I think he said 14 or 15 in the postgame was the number he used.
But Bruce said no fouls on anybody guarding Broom down in the paint. That you had the National Player of the Year candidate getting that many 2-point buckets and shots down low, and the Alabama defender on him never got whistled for a foul, and that bothered BP a little bit. I know that for sure.
Well,
because I saw afterwards he spent some time talking to an SEC representative in the tunnels of Neville Arena.
About the officiating?
Well, I'm
or
sure,
just
yeah.
talking? You just saw him talking.
Well, I walked past him 3 or 4 times.
Did you keep I left something else. I left something else.
So I some of the conversation was about the lack of fouls being called on Janai Broom. When you're a guard, you almost breathe on your heart. Sometimes they call a foul.
Yeah,
but down low, man, the big guy takes so much pounding, and Janai had those chances and did not draw a foul all day long, according to BP.
Yeah, a lot of it is finesse with Janai, and a lot of it is fade away. Somebody was asking me over the weekend, why will Janai not be a star in the NBA? I was like, it always has been weird to me, whether it's football or basketball in the SEC, when you're one of the best, and then it never equates at the next level. But basketball is pretty simple.
Yes.
It's speed. It's being able to use both hands equally. It's being able to shoot the basketball from everywhere. It's being able to jump out of the gym.
I do think he's really quick on that little hook release, that may help him get some playing time in the NBA.
It'll be hell in Israel.
Yeah. You think so? That's
Yeah.
where it'll end up?
I do not think Janai Broom will ever start a game in the NBA.